Good evening. My name is Rob Lydon. I'm a Director Emeritus here at the Center. I'm pleased to welcome you to the 9th Chatham Marconi Speaker Series presentation of 2025. The Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, AWSC, is a nonprofit organization supporting scientific research, educating the community, and improving public safety surrounding white sharks. Speaker Series program will discuss the ongoing white shark research projects conducted and funded by AWSC, how that research is impacting conservation and public safety, and what the research has taught us. Videos and photographs from the research season will demonstrate what a shark is and what it takes to conduct white shark research. As Outreach and Social Media Manager for the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, Kristen Smith leads initiatives to advance public awareness and understanding of white shark research and conservation in the region. She coordinates and manages a variety of educational programs, community outreach efforts, AWSC's college internship program, and social media campaigns. Kristen received her degree in marine science from Coastal Carolina University and aided in the university's shark research programs. She's been featured on platforms such as The Today Show, Channel 7 News Boston, and Good Morning America, highlighting AWSC's White Shark Ecotourism Program and public safety initiatives. Following her presentation, Kristen will answer your questions. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Kristen Smith.
Hello. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay, great. Thank you for the lovely intro. Thank you all for having me here. As I was walking up the front, as I was getting in here today, I was like, wow, what a full circle moment for me. So you don't know my background, what you've just heard from my bio, but I started at the Conservancy as a volunteer in 2016, but my first paid position at the Conservancy was running their summer programs, which we used to house out of this building back in 2017 and 2018 and 2019. So what a full circle moment for me. That's when I only worked for the Conservancy as a summer helper, and now I work there full-time year-round. So a little bit of a fun full circle moment for me this evening too. So it was really great. So thank you all for having me here today. And yes, I'm really excited for you to learn more about the work that we are doing. And it is pretty in the moment too. Our team just came in off the water. That's why I might look like I'm a little windburnt, because I was out on the water with them today. But I have exciting news to share for later on. So we'll get into that though in a little bit. I will just echo who we are as a nonprofit. We're in 3 different pillars revolving around our mission, revolving around the white shark or great white shark work here that's happening off of the Cape. And the one is that for the being able to collaborate with that research of great whites here off of our coastline, but then we also are collaborating with the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, with specifically Dr. Greg Skolmel. And then that work that we are learning about their inshore and offshore movements, which we're going to dive into later on, so don't worry. That's what's being shared with the Cape Cod National Seashore, our public safety officers, people that have that jurisdiction of public safety initiatives happening here. We are a true nonprofit, so we do not have say of what happens, but we can at least share that data with people that do have that power, and they are able then to use that to back these protocols that they are doing. And last but not least is that educational key for us for what we do. So if it's talking to you all tonight, my co-educator Michaela has been up at Mass Audubon doing a Shark Week for their summer camp up there. Later in the month, we are going to be traveling throughout the Cape, all up and down, really just the Massachusetts area as well. So we're here to teach you all about our work and maybe dispel some of those myths about sharks and specifically great whites along the way. So for us, I like to take a little bit of a history lesson before before we get into modern day, because it is important to know how we actually got to this place where we currently are. So I do love to share this photo. So this is Dr. Greg Scommel on the screen behind me. This is the state biologist for Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, of who we do work with. And what you're seeing is a great white shark, and maybe not a typical ocean environment that you might think that they would always be in, right? You might actually remember this story. It's over 20 years ago now, from 2004, where white shark, her name is Gretel, was trapped in a salt pond in Falmouth for over a week. And this is the very first time that Dr. Greg Scommel and other state biologists were able to study a great white here off of the Massachusetts coastline. And she is the special award for first great white shark tagged here in Massachusetts. Unfortunately, the tag fell off when she was freed. So we have no data from her, but this and continued sightings leading up until 2009, which is what then sparked the state-led research that Greg initially then speared off then at that point in time, which brought us then in as a nonprofit in 2012. Between the 2004 into 2009, more and more sightings were being seen of white sharks here off of our coastline, which has then sparked the creation of us. Our CEO and co-founder, Cynthia Wigran, approached Greg after a talk that he was doing and asked, how can our local communities help? And back then, and still to this day, the state does not put very little funding to this work that he does. And so he joked, you can start a nonprofit. The state can accept funds that way. And she went home and Googled, how do I start a nonprofit? And here we are today. And so, which is why I love sharing that story, because it's truly just like a spark of curiosity now. But we are the main fundraising initiative for this work that is being done here. And it's something, as the Conservancy was being started now over 10 years ago, it was a common question. Well, why? Why great whites? Why do we want to protect them? They're these scary man-eating machines. But a lot of people were also asking, well, why are they here? They're new species to this coastline. And that necessarily is not true. And there's a rich history actually of white sharks, not just here off of New England, but really throughout the full Northwest Atlantic. And there's a reason why people have this misconception that this species is new here. And unfortunately, it's because we fished them, a lot of them, out of our oceans during the 70s and 80s and early 90s. And this is due to just the lack of fishery regulations we had back then. Great whites and other shark and fish species were taken out of our ecosystems at a faster rate than they can repopulate during that time. And so this is why I like to say that we can't blame fishers like Captain Frank Mundus and other sport fishers and large-scale commercial fishers for overfishing these species, because fishery science just wasn't a thing back then. So we really didn't know what we could take out. And so, but at this point, it's estimated that before they were put under a state and a federal protection, that almost 80% of their populations were fished out. So of course, people have this misconception that they were new here to this coastline, because there were very little here to begin with when people were starting to pay attention to sharks, maybe when a time when Jaws came out about 50 years ago now, right? But I love to share this quote to just drive home that we know that sharks have always been here. And this is a quote from Henry David Thoreau's book, Cape Cod, written in 1865, where these quotes say that the ocean is a commonly but a tantalizing prospect in hot weather, for with all that water before you, there is, as we were afterward told, that no bathing on the Atlantic side on the account of undertow and the rumor of sharks. And it continues to go on and say, I can easily believe in the undertow, but I've no doubt that one shark in a dozen years is enough to keep up the reputation of a beach 100 miles long. So almost 200 years ago, we're already getting almost Jaws effect fear of sharks, even before movies were even a thing back then, right? So we know historically sharks have always been here. We can see that from our photographic records as well. So here's a great white being brought in by a wear net in Barnstable Harbor in 1948. This is a pretty decent sized one too, it's not even a small one. So we know historically that they have been here. We see this from past papers as well. So this is data taken from 1985 from NOAA scientists Casey and Pratt. And we can see that all these green dots is a confirmed sighting or capture of a great white, right? So we know that historically they've always been here. They have a long range from Mexico all the way up into Canada, where in the Northeast and in New England, that green gets really thick, right? So we know historically that they have been here, but we can contribute to those lack of sightings 30, 40 years ago because of that population decline. But it also goes in tandem with their food source, right? So just like great whites, their food sources, marine mammals, seals, whales, have also a very rich history here off of our coastline, and I'm sure we are all familiar with that, so I won't dive deep into that this evening unless we have questions. Happy to answer them. But because of the protections of seals during the Marine Mammal Protection Act in 1972, now we have this protection of predator and prey here along our coastline, where both animals, where historically they have always been, now we have this unique opportunity here off of our coastline to study them here, and we have this predictable access to this species year in and year out, where now we can apply tags, look at their offshore and inshore movements, and actually learn about where they are going and how often that they are off of these areas here. Back when it was legal to bring in inland white sharks, scientists like Casey and Pratt were able to learn a lot about the internal anatomy and physiology. So we do know a lot about age and growth and things like that with white sharks. So we do know that they live up to 70 years, that females reach maturity at almost 30 years old. So when we think of it from this conservation standpoint, of course it takes so long to see these protections actually take effect. So I always like to give this that in the state of Massachusetts, white sharks became a protected species in 2005. So a female white shark that was born in 2005 is 25 now. She's not at maturity yet to make babies. So this is why we're seeing this prolonged conservation effect in these areas here, because it takes so long for them to actually be able to repopulate. Which brings us to our modern day, right? So as I said, we do have our own research team that does collaborate with Dr. Greg Scommel, that's spearheaded by our senior scientist, Dr. Megan Winton. And I love to say that our science team is 75% women, which is so cool. You know, when I was a little girl, I still love watching Shark Week, and it's great that those programs start to feature women in science more. But like back then, there wasn't really a lot of women to look up to besides like Sylvia Earle and Eugenie Clark. So having our core group of science team here be women is really inspiring to our local Cape, and also for farther community as well. And for us, what I like to say too is that our research is quite unique. And it is a misconception, because when you watch shows on Shark Week and Shark Fest, that a lot of scientists do fish or chum and to capture sharks to apply tags and measurements and do what they need to do for their own research. Where here we don't do that. We actually utilize a spotter pilot to find sharks. So we work with a man named Wayne Davis, and sometimes we do work with the men down at Cape Cod Airfield in Marston's Mills as well. And we employ these pilots to find sharks for us, and they're really skilled at finding things from the sky. A lot of our aerial photography that you'll see during this presentation does come from Wayne. So as he's flying his plane, he's directing us to that shark, he's taking photos as well. So he's quite busy up there during the day. So it's a sophisticated game of Marco Polo, essentially, between the freely swimming shark, our research boat, and Wayne being able to direct us to that individual so we can start doing research on them. So which brings us to our research projects. So I'm going to go over the projects that we are focusing on this year. Some are brand new, some are just continuation from projects that we have been doing for many years now. So one is population monitoring. And so for us in 2023, we did release a landmark study looking at what is the population of white sharks that are visiting here off of our coastline, and what was that population within that 5-year data collection range. So this does not account for the full Northwest Atlantic population. There's be a huge undertaking to do that, but at least we can start small and look at what these populations are here. But as we are continuing to work with collaborators and fishers and scientists, we're able to learn more about that. So how we are able to achieve that study is we simply put a GoPro on a painter pole, we stick it in the water, and let the shark swim by. So it's like to say that scientists doesn't have to be so sciencey, right? That we're literally using things you can order from your Amazon app tonight and get it shipped to your house by tomorrow morning. And because of that though, we let the shark swim by. We get video of the left side, video of the right side, and then our team gets to watch this video and compare it to the over 700 individual sharks we have identified so far. Now that does not mean that there are 700 sharks here off of Cape Cod right now. now. That is not the case. These 700, not all of them have been detected or seen here. They have been sent in from video footage from our collaborators in Maine, from Canada, fishers and divers off of Florida as well. So they're not always seen here, but it goes toward that larger population number. Like I said, this type of video footage then was put toward that landmark study. In that five-year period, we estimated that 800 white sharks were visiting our coastline in that 5 years. And so after we watch that video, we create this ID card for each one of the sharks that we come upon, or with people that send us those videos in. And we look at their gills, we'll look at their fins, we'll look at the counter shading, or where the white meets the gray alongside the body. We might look for scarring as well. So this shark particularly, this is Salty. We watched the video I just showed was also Salty's video as well. And we see along his face that there's a lot of scratches along his body. And what do you think you could get those from? Got other sharks? Yeah.
Like nets or traps.
Nets, traps. What else? Yeah. So all great assumptions. We have seen scarring from other sharks, from fishing gear, from boat propellers. Scratches like this are indicative from seals though. So seals having those large claws on their flippers, we do see sharks that get seal scratches all around their face and along their gills, like Salty has those scratches along his gills in the middle top of photo as well. So we will see these types of injuries with these larger sharks that we do see here as they're trying to eat here off of the coastline. But as I said, we use this for sharks that we encounter up here, but we also use this when people send us their video footage from other areas of the East Coast as well, like this one. So this is a photo of a shark, the nice bluer water is off of Jupiter, Florida in 2019. And we compared the gills and the bottom part of its tail to video footage that we have up here, and it's Salty in Florida. So we are able to see that these sharks, again, just showing that they're not just Cape Cod's great whites, they do make these really wide swims throughout the year. We also saw this again this year, again off of Jupiter, Florida, where another diver came across a white shark, sent us the video footage, and we saw it's a white shark we have identified that's named Elephant. So we also do name sharks based off of different things. So Salty is named actually by a local Cape Cod fishing group called the Cape Cod Salties. Sometimes we do name them based off of their markings as well. So we have a white shark named Candy Cane because on the white markings, like how Salty's has white going down his tail, Candy Cane's white looks like a candy cane, right? So sometimes they're named based off of their markings. They can be based off of donors as well, behavior too. So when you have over 700 sharks to name, you got to get creative in some points in time. Our next one is though we want to monitor the movements and habitat use along Cape Cod here and also beyond. So in the last 10 plus years of being able to apply tags to this fish, we've been able to really start to look at what those summer and fall habits are here along the Outer Cape and Cape Cod Bay. But it's also interesting as we have been able to look at this data year in and year out, we're also seeing how it could be potentially starting to change as well. So because of that, there is still a clear need to better understand their movements as well. So the data that we do collect is through that acoustic receiver, right, that we'll get into in a little bit. That's maintained by Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, but then our team helps in processing that data every single year. So for that, we have to tag them. And so as we said earlier, we have to tag sharks and take videos as they're freely swimming. So we have to sneak up behind that shark, and just as quickly as you saw, Greg applies that tag and the shark swims away. It is an adaptive way of harpooning. Greg actually learned how to tag great whites in this way by a retired tuna harpooner, but instead of harpooning to kill, we're placing that tag along the dorsal fin where it meets the body in this muscular area here. So it is a quick pinch like it would be for us for an ear piercing or a shot, but this way is still minimally invasive. We're still being able to apply tags on this large fish that we do see here. So the main tag we do use is called an acoustic tag. Actually, what I'm going to do, let me get get my laser pointer. It'd be a lot easier to point things out as I'm standing up here. So we have our acoustic tag right here. It's inserted into the body by this intermuscular dart right here, where the tether and the tag hangs off. The tag itself is about the size of my clicker. It's not very large whatsoever. These tags work in tandem with what's called an acoustic telemetry array, which we have here along the Cape, the islands, the South and North Shore, going up toward Boston, the Sound, Buzzards Bay as well, and then with collaborators in this New England area, off of New Hampshire, Maine, and Canada as well. So these are what these acoustic receivers look like. Here along the Cape, they are placed on these yellow buoys, so they'd be under the water, hanging off. If you do frequent the outer Cape or you have a boat, you've probably seen these yellow buoys out in the waters around here. And so this system, the easiest way I can break it down is Easy Pass for great white sharks. So if we all know what Easy Pass is, or the toll transponders that may be in your car. So anytime a tagged great white swims by one of these receivers, they do have a detection radius of up to 500 meters, but it also depends on the day. We were in Cape Cod Bay today, nice and glassy, gonna have that wider detection range. Maybe on the outer Cape, as this hurricane is farther off our coastlines, getting more choppy, that array is going to shrink in that. This type of system, though, is not in real time. It is passive, so it continues to catalog that data throughout the year as they are in the water. We do have to pull these out of the water to get that data. So these are put in around May, June, early July. They stay in the water all season. They're hauled out in about January time frame. Then they get hauled out, cleaned up, batteries charged, data analyzed, and they get thrown in the water for the next season. But along the outer Cape, and then also with the town of Marshfield, there's also two off of the coast of Maine as well. There are real-time acoustic receivers as well that are placed along. If you have our app Sharktivity, these are integrated into the app, so you might already be seeing them on here. We're gonna get into the app portion in just a little bit. But this type of system is the same type of system that I have been talking about, but in the name we get it in real time. So the solar panels on there allow this system to work. There is a SIM card inside of it, just like we have in our phones. So when a tagged shark swims by, we get a text message that that shark was detected. Then depending on what beach it is off of, those lifeguards or the town manager also gets that text message as well. So these are off of more popular swimming beach areas here along the Cape. One's off of North Beach in Chatham. One's off of the drive-on side of Nauset Beach. One is off of Newcomb Hollow as well. So these are here as a great outreach tool for people to be able to see where tagged white sharks are, but it's important that they only detect tagged white sharks and when they're in range, right? So we have 327, actually I should say 328 tagged white sharks now off of the whole east coast here. But like I said, they do have to be in range for the real times. These ranges are about 150 meters instead of the full 500. But that's just as technology, as that continues to improve year in and year out, hopefully that range will continue to get larger. If you are interested in looking at some of acoustic data in your free time, we do have it publicly available to anyone to look at through our White Shark logbook. It's on our website. So we have data from 2010 to 2024. So this hosts all of our acoustic data on here. It also hosts our White Shark catalog as well. So if you wanted to see the over 700 sharks we have identified, you can check that out as well. So just to give you the lay of the land of how this works, because I do find it quite interesting when we break down what this data is actually showing us. So every one of these circles is a location of an acoustic receiver. The larger the circle means more detections, not necessarily more sharks. So as we see here, as what we've seen in years past, the outer Cape does have more shark detections than what we see inside of the bay. But it is important to note that that is another misconception that white sharks are not in the bay. Yes, they are. We know that we saw 3 in the bay today, but then as they move toward north as well. But I do like to point out this little blurb here, this is right outside of Plymouth, which is Pamet Point. And so this area where we do see seals in this area, there's a smaller seal haul out right there. So we do see that, even though we have almost the same amount of shark detections in this area, like we would see maybe along the outer Cape, not necessarily the same amount of sharks. So from out here, this could be from 40, 50, 60 tagged great whites. We're here, it's more like 10 to 15. So those 10 to 15 have it figured out there. They realize, oh, I can still eat seals. I have less competition. I'm gonna hang out here instead of fighting with all the other ones on the outer side to fight for food and have less competition in those areas as well. So like I said, this is available for everyone to see here. It's on our website if you ever want to look into some shark data in your free time. Next, we are looking at their behavior and habitat use in Cape Cod Bay. And for us, this is really exciting because in years past, since 2019, DMF and us here at the Conservancy have been able to deploy what are called camera tags with white sharks here along the outer arm or the ocean side of the Cape. And so a new initiative for us this year was to deploy them in the bay. And today we did it. So very exciting. You're the first ones to know. I haven't even posted on our social media yet. So you got the inside scoop today by coming. And so for this is really exciting. So this is the first, today is the first shark tagged of the season, and also the first shark with a camera tag in Cape Cod Bay today as well. So really cool stuff that we were able to achieve today. This is essentially putting a Fitbit or a smartphone on a shark and letting it do its thing. So it is attached to an acoustic tag. You can see it right there. It is tethered, and then there is this mechanism here that starts to dissolve over time. So I didn't mention earlier, I apologize, the acoustic tag has a battery life of 10 years versus then our camera tag stays on for about 36 to 48 hours or so. But in that time frame, it's collecting it collects 10 data points a second, which is a lot of data. It also has a camera on it, so we get a shark's eye view of what it's doing. It's detecting shark depth. It's also collecting shark acceleration as well. So it has what's called an accelerometer inside. That's what's in our phones and in our smartwatches to track our steps. We can put one on a shark and figure out what their acceleration is, which is really exciting. So we've been putting these tags out on white sharks along the outer Cape, also in with our collaborations down south as well. And we're able to see maybe how they are effectively hunting for seals here. Along the outer Cape. We've never seen one actually feed on a seal using this tag yet, unfortunately, but we've been able to see some other exciting things as well, like a great white shark feeding on smaller species of sharks like spiny dogfish that we see here off of our coastline. So we know historically that white sharks have always fed on other species of sharks. We've seen it through old dissection records of the species, but this was the very first time scientists have ever seen great whites physically feed on spiny dogfish. And it's because of these types of tags where we get to take a glimpse into that shark's life, which is really exciting. We've also been able to see them be really curious with this type of technology, going down to the ocean floor and flipping over the sea stars. We've seen them be spooked by torpedo rays. We've seen them all of a sudden kind of just cruising in the middle of the water column and just jet up really quick, because then we see in the video there's a cormorant just sitting at the water's surface, realize that's not what I want to eat, and dives right back down. So being able to apply these tags on these white sharks in the bay, we get to now see what the heck are they doing in there. You know, we get multiple reports. I'm sure you've seen videos on social media or the news every year of fishers off of Billingsgate Shoal or other places in the bay. As they're reeling in their fish, the tax man comes and swipes their catch, right? So we want to figure out, is that what they're just doing in there? Are they doing something else? Are they using this as like a rest point or a traveling point? We don't know. So hopefully this tag is going to allow us to get that glimpse into their life, being able to have it. So hopefully we get some good data when that tag does pop off. So as I said, it does have to pop off. It floats to the surface, hence why that is a bright color. We have to go and retrieve it. If we do not retrieve it, we do not get the data. So it's very important that we go and get it. There are satellites, there are antenna on it that connect to a satellite once it pops off, and it can connect. So we get a general GPS location of where it is as well. We also though want to look at their behavior and habitat use in the southeast, because we know, as you saw from data I showed earlier, they're not just here within the north, they do go south, they do go into the Gulf as well. So we really want to know, what are they doing? Very little is known about what they do when they go down south, let alone into the Gulf. So with collaborators, we are hoping to learn more about that when they do leave our coastline here. So one of those examples is white shark mushroom. This is a shark that our team just got video footage of. We weren't able to tag it back in 2017, but 5 years later, it was tagged in March of 2021 in South Carolina by one of our collaborators, Captain Chip. And so Chip runs a sport fishing company off of Hilton Head, and he knows where great whites are off of South Carolina. He's like the white shark savant down there. And for him and his work, it's a great collaborator for us to have during these winter months, where fishers, just like how they are up here, are out on the water a heck of a lot more sometimes than what we can. So having those collaborations and extra eyes out on the water is key for us to really truly learn more about this species. So we do work with Chip when during those winter months when these white sharks are not off of our coastline. So for that, I love to share this story, which is white shark Libeth. She's a 14-foot female great white that Chip was able to help us out and tag in December of 2023. And so for her, we are then able to get glimpses into this habitat during the winter months. And Libeth was able to be a little rock star for us. Some of you have been following us for a while. You might already be familiar with her story. So I'm going to go over the tags that she has on her. This is another version of the camera tag that I have been talking about. We do have different types of models for it. Does the same thing that we've been discussing, just looks a little bit different. On the other side of her fin, she also has an acoustic tag, but then at the top here, she has what's called a spot tag, or a type of satellite tag. So this is a type of tag actually we cannot apply on white sharks here off of our coastline when we are out in the field, because you do have to capture the shark to put it on. So this is why having this collaboration with Chip is really important, because he's able to have these more direct access to these fish than what we can have up here. So once he is able to place this type of tag on, the shark then does swim away, and hopefully we get really great data from it. So Libeth has a few different medals for herself. So she's the first white shark in the South to have a camera tag placed on her. Unfortunately, nothing really exciting. She was just swimming in the big, beautiful blue ocean. Sometimes she'd come to the surface, sometimes she'd go a little bit further deep. But again, just showing that they're not always just actively hunting, right? They are just always swimming around too. But then she also has, like I said, this spot tag. So how this tag works, it's at the top of the dorsal fin, because it has to be able to breach the surface of the water. So like we know in Jaws, right, the dorsal fin peeks through sometimes, but it's actually more rare than what we're led to believe to be. And so when this dorsal fin comes up out of the water with this tag, it has to be out for about 90 seconds or so. And then the tag connects to a satellite and sends us a ping to let us know where she is. And so other scientists, ourselves, have been working with spot tags for many years. Sometimes you get some good data, sometimes you don't. Well, Libeth surprised us. So all of these green dots that you see all piled up on one another is where she pinged in. So she kind of defied the odds of how much a white shark can be at the surface of the water. But this is a really great tool for many different reasons. So her path led us, here about in South Carolina, down just hugging the coast, going around Florida, around the tip, into the Panhandle, into the Gulf, made her way down off of Mexico. So this is the furthest west in the Gulf a white shark has ever been tracked. Made her way back around. She came up, almost followed the same exact path, jetted off offshore for a little bit. It looks like she made her way really close to Cape Cod. She really didn't. She was many, many miles offshore. Then continued her way up north and hung out in Canada all summer and fall. Her last ping in before her battery died in October of 2024 was right here at the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. So one shark going from very cold water to very warm water in less than a year, right? Making this really large path. And so one, this is extremely exciting because this type of data can be used when we look at international protections of this species, showing that they are utilizing these international water areas in less than 1 year. She is doing that. Also, then what a great like outreach and education tool, right? Because of her being off of areas of Mississippi and Texas and Mexico, news stations around this area were reaching out to her being like, what is this shark and why is it in the Gulf, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that they do frequent that area as well. And so a really great way to show this population rebound of this species, not just here where we live on Cape Cod, but in other areas along the East Coast and into the Gulf as well. The only downside is her tag battery did die. Spot tag should last almost 5 years. Hers died in less than a year. But again, that's just the nature of working with wildlife, working with technology. Because she was so active, that tag battery did not last as long. But we also think that maybe something was wrong with the tag itself for it to die in less than a year, but still allowing us to have such great data and great ways to expand our reach and talking about white sharks here. What's great is that she has that acoustic tag, right? So when we hauled out the acoustic receivers this January, she was detected in Cape Cod Bay in November. So she did make her way here to Cape Cod at one point in time. This is a really fast animation, so I will play it a few times. So all those little dots is a location of a receiver where she was detected. Just like the logbook, the larger the dot, the more times she was detected there. So she was going back and forth in the bay quite often, just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until she eventually made her way back up around the outer Cape until she left. So she was detected on ROA from November 14th to November 23rd of 2024. So maybe we'll see her back this year. We don't know. Maybe she's in Canada right now. Maybe our collaborators will see her before us. We don't know. But again, exciting ways to be able to still track her movements. Even though that one tag died, we still have that acoustic tag to be able to see where she is. But as I stated in the beginning, we're learning this not just to be able to further our knowledge of white sharks, but also to be able to further our knowledge for those public safety collaborations as well. So we can learn about those inshore and offshore movements. We do know from a study we released about 4 years ago now that here off of the Cape specifically, that they are spending 47% of their time in 15 feet of water or less. So that is really great knowledge to know if you are managing the beach or if you are a lifeguard. But it's also great for us to know, just to truly show that how common that human and shark, how not common those human and shark interactions really are, right? They're in the same areas that we use recreationally almost 50% of their time. But this is why, though, it's important that we continue to learn about those habits, but also continue to be able to make those education and outreach easily accessible for people as well. And especially if you've been living here on Cape Cod all of your life, or if you're new here, I don't know, maybe you haven't noticed from my accent, I'm not from Massachusetts. I'm from Pennsylvania. So for me, I spent my summers in New Jersey, and then I went to school in South Carolina before moving up here. My first time on a beach was when I moved up here in 2016 up here. So I was not familiar with our coastline, with how vastly it drops off at high tide here. So this is a photo off of Nauset Beach. And so we know at high tide on these outer Cape areas, it drops off very fast. And so very far that, a research boat can pretty much hug the coastline, right? And so that's when you notice when you take a few steps in, you're already treading water or up to your neck. And if we can be able to, drop off that fast, that's when you see fish come through. That's when you see seals and feeding the fish, which then sharks are there for their own food as well. So it is important to note that, we are not on the menu for great whites or for any species of sharks at all. But when we do enter the water in areas where their food source are, that's when those mistakes and interactions can happen. So maybe you have already... There you go. Maybe you have already seen, the signs that are placed on the beaches here along the outer Cape, making it very aware for anyone that is visiting or been here all of their lives that white sharks are here, and they do hunt seals in these near shore and shallow water areas. How and then we are able to help is that we can put our tagging data on there. So based on that tagging data, peak activity is August, September, and October. So we're just ramping up for white shark activity right now, where it really starts to peak in the late summer, early fall here. And that's when, lifeguards aren't here as well, but that's when activity spikes. This is why signs are being stayed up at beaches, stop the bleed kits are being put in, call boxes at beaches that necessarily don't have the best service, right, are being put in to help those public safety emergencies that could arise, not just even a white shark bite, but anything that could happen along the beaches there. We also have the Purple Shark Flag program as well. So that's where to remind anyone that there's potential for hazardous marine life within the area. So the Purple Shark Flag is always flown to have that reminder to everyone. So I just like to say, though, if you are visiting a beach, always check in on what their flag policy is. I know like towns of Nauset Beach, where their shark flag protocol may be different than what it is up in Wellfleet. So I always just say, if you're not familiar with the shark flag protocol is, just ask, because towns might have it differently versus then areas like Wellfleet that have town beaches, but also national seashore beaches as well. So always like to say, just ask. Lifeguards are very happy to explain what those are. We also have our app, Sharktivity. A lot of people don't realize that Sharktivity is ours. I was at Art in the Park yesterday down in Main Street in Chatham. We've been able to set up our tables down there with Center for Coastal Studies to teach people about sharks and whales. And I had, no joke, maybe 5 to 7 people coming up saying, you should really collaborate with the Sharktivity people. I really think you would do a really good job together. Surprise, it's us. So please, if you don't have it downloaded already, please do. It's a free app for you. If you don't have a smartphone, you can view it from just your desktop or your like an iPad too. But this is where then our research team, like us today, I was putting in those sightings that we saw in the bay. But if we are near a public beach area, we can send out those shark alerts as well. There are lifeguards that will send out shark alerts too. But this is also where you as the public can input your shark sightings. If it's here on the Cape or if you're diving off of Florida, if you see a great white, please put your sighting up on the app. They'll just go in as a confirmed or an unconfirmed sighting. So a lot of the confirmed sightings do come from our own research team or our ecotourism teams. But if you do have a photo or video so we can just confirm that what you're seeing as a great white, it will go in as a confirmed. If you don't, that's fine. Still put it in. Just gonna go in as an unconfirmed one as well. We also have our real-time receivers integrated into the app as well. So if you see a yellowish, orangish icon, that means a white shark has not been detected on there within the last hour. If it's purple, one has been. You can click it then and actually see what sharks have been detected on there. We also have the historic acoustic detections for each sharks on there. So if you're on the app and just looking at individual sharks, it will show you what other acoustic receivers they've been detected on. And when we do have sharks with spot tags that have working batteries, they will also be on there as well when they do ping in. But as we start to wrap up today, I just want to say thank you for coming out. It's always something that I get asked at events that, how can I help? Maybe I don't have time to volunteer or have the money to donate, but how can I help? Just being educated is the biggest way, right? There's a lot of misconceptions about great whites and about the research that is happening here. So just by showing up and being more knowledgeable is such a great way to help already and to help spread the word of what we are actually doing. But even though I understand that it might be a little bit scary or hesitancy for people that this species is here off of our coastline, having apex predators in areas, if it's here in our ocean or on land with wolves in Yellowstone or something, having those apex predators is a great sign of ecosystem health, right? And so we want to have healthy ecosystems so we can continue to enjoy it throughout our lifetime and for future generations. And it's something that, like I said, I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from a small farm town. I went out my back door and I saw squirrels, fox, deer, which are still very cool. But we have youth here that are growing up where the ocean is their backyard, and during the winter they can see right whales right off of their beach. They can look at sea turtles off of our coastline, sharks and all other species of marine life. And so what a treat for us to be able to live here on our little sandbar and being able to have these vast array of marine life here, and for other or organizations that are collaborators be able to work with and learn about it here as well. So if you are ever inclined of how you can help, here are just some ways that you can. The Shark Center, we're right down the road from here at Marconi, so please come down and say hi if you would like to. Right now we're still open 7 days a week until the end of the month, and then we switch into our fall hours. But yeah, thank you so much. If you have any question, if it's on the Zoom or if anyone here in person, I am happy to answer those at this time. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Oh, thank you.
We do have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Paul says, great work, and thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Is there an opportunity for AWSC to coordinate or share with other organizations across the country?
Oh, like, do we have collaborators in other areas? Absolutely, we do. So here within this region, we work with the New Hampshire Department of Natural Resources. We work with the Maine Department of Marine Resources. We work with Fisheries and Oceans Canada, which is their equivalent of what NOAA is for us. We have collaborations with other scientists in other universities here throughout the country as well. So yes, we have active projects with other groups too. If anyone's interested in it, if you go to our website and under the research tab, we have a list of all of most of all of our papers that we have been authors on or have led on. So if anyone's interested in projects we've been a part of or ones that we are the main lead on, that's all available on our website. You can read and look at those papers. So yeah, anything else?